CJ just messaged and said he's for them now. We have a couple of minutes.
We're waiting on one more commissioner and then we'll get started. So keep talking amongst yourselves. Hey, guys. Hey, I call the. That was a little louder than me. That's hard to believe, isn't it? Whoa. Call the Metropolitan Library Commission meeting to order. Maria, call roll to establish a quorum.
Anthony. Edmondson. Harris. Jackson. Johnson. McDaniel. Morgan. Patel. Pennington. Rubio. Smith. Poland. Tucker. Woodruff. Kane.
Here. And thanks to everybody for being here. So we have a quorum. 2.1, Introduction of Library Manager. Our host today is Todd Podsney from Southern Oaks. Todd, it's good to see you in person.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the downtown library. I hope that someday soon we'll have you back out visiting the libraries. But as you may have heard, Southern Oaks has actually been curbside only for the last couple of weeks. They've been working on our fire sprinklers, but we were able to help people curbside with all of their material needs. We also had 2 outdoor programs thanks to our butterfly garden that is maintained by the Master Gardener volunteers. So we really appreciated that. We were able to have a story time as well as a team crafting program. And I'm happy to report that we reopened this afternoon at 1 o'clock. And by the time I left, we already had half the computers and both study rooms full. So people were ready and waiting to go. People who helped us out in IT and security and CIS and marketing for keeping everybody up to date and helping support us during this time. And we're really happy to be open. So welcome and thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Todd. That's been kind of tricky, so please convey our thanks to not only yourself, but to your staff. That's always fun to find out. You have to go to a different plan when you have something like fire suppression, right?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. 2.2, presentation of service certificates for October. Stephen Isaacs, IT technician for 20 years. Jared Gerfen, engagement manager at Midwest City, 15 years. Harry Wong, cataloging librarian, collection services and development, 15 years. Todd Podzemy, Southern Oaks, 10 years. We'll clap because you're here. Thank you, Todd. Kenda McGee, access specialist, The Village, 5 years, and Jennifer England Burnside, librarian, Northwest, 5 years. Let's give them all a big hand. And then now, if you'll direct your attention behind me, we have our video presentation of this month's honorees. What? That's true. We don't need this sound. Oh, it's you? Maria. Okay, thank you. It's always so nice. I love reading those quotes. That's very cool. Thank you for doing that. Okay, request for comments from general public. Maria, do we have anyone asking to speak today?
No.
Okay, thank you. Item 3, consent docket. I'll entertain a motion for approval of items 3.1 through 3.8. Motion, second. Are we going back?
At this point, we're still putting the logistics together, but we want to go ahead and plan it in the event that we do, that we have a schedule that we can work to.
Okay, any items we need to pull separately? Any questions about any of these items 3.1 to, yes, Beth? Oh, Beth, I'm sorry. Guys, I forgot to remind you to come use the microphone so our viewers at home. They did. Yeah. Beth made the motion. I didn't catch the second. We had a couple of seconds. Did you catch the second? Okay, Craig did. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Beth.
On the automated materials handling equipment, on the Envisionware, the software 2 to 5 years, I'm not seeing included and I'm not seeing anything there. Can someone explain that?
This is, oh, is John going to answer? Okay. This is Ann from IT. Sorry, I'm on the Zoom. If you're asking about the software for Envisionware, they don't put the cost out separately. It's part of their maintenance cost. MK does theirs separately, and that's why it's listed separately. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, you did say, yeah.
Great question, Beth. Other questions? Any questions about any of the other items on here?
Thank you, Ann.
Okay, Maria, call roll.
Anthony. Edmondson. Harris. Jackson. Johnson. McCaleb. McDaniel.
Yes.
McQuiller. Morgan. Patel. Pennington. Rubio. Smith. Tolan. Tucker. Woodruff. Kane.
Yes. 4.1, discussion, consideration, possible action, Public Services Committee review and possible revisions to AS 510, public space reservations. Entertain, the motion's coming from committee, so we don't need a second for that. So Judy, come on up.
A little background on what we've been doing on this. A couple or 3 months ago, we received an inquiry from a city official for an exception to the policy for room reservations. And that was given to a commission member who passed it on to the commission, and it was assigned to the Public Services Committee. For some time now, the administration has been looking at all of our policies and updating them, changing them as necessary, and then bringing them to the commission for a vote. And so this is an ongoing process that we went ahead and put the reservation of spaces in this consideration because of the question that was asked about it. And then after the study on it began, we had one of our committee members who submitted some questions and some comments, and those were all considered both by the Public Services Committee and by Chris Kennedy's department. I'm not sure quite how to refer to it. You are the Assistant Executive Director for Public Services or something like that? Deputy. Okay, I was close. This is my one. Okay. His group canvassed 16 different library systems, all the ones around Oklahoma County, and then several others across the country that were similar in size to ours, primarily about their fees that they charge for the use of reserved spaces, and also what the fees were and who didn't have to pay the fees, who all was required to pay. And what they found out was that about half of the library systems don't even charge for their meeting spaces. Considering a lot of different things, one is that there is a cost to the library to rent out spaces. And that cost includes the cost of staff time to arrange the space and then to rearrange it back to its regular configuration, a custodial cost sometimes, and kind of what I consider a hidden cost, and that is if that room is reserved out, it can't be used for anything else. And if that particular library decides they need to have a staff meeting, and that's the only place in the library that's big enough to get the staff together, but somebody else has already rented it out, they can't use it. So to me, that's kind of a hidden cost. Now, in the policy, there is some consideration for recovering part of some of those costs, but not all of them. But in a sense, also having spaces available to the public is part of our public service. It's one of the reasons we exist as a library is to accommodate our customers, and that's one of the ways we do it. So to kind of reach a compromise, the group decided that we wouldn't eliminate fees, but we also, the fees that we were charging were probably too high. And we're probably keeping people from renting spaces that they would otherwise try to rent. So they determined that a fee of $10 per hour was appropriate to make the rentals consistent across the system and to make them affordable, but still make the people who are doing these reservations accountable in a way. We don't want someone reserving rooms in 4 different libraries and say, I'll decide later which one I'm going to use. So putting all those together, this was the determination that we would charge $10 an hour. Now, in looking at all of this, our present policy includes a list of the libraries and the spaces that they have and charge for each of those spaces. So therefore, that list is part of the policy. It was debated whether to leave that list in or take it out. The benefit of leaving it in is that it gives the public access to that list of spaces. Both board docs and our website, if you drill down far enough, there's a way to get to the policies. And so that information is available. The problem with that being in part of the policy is that any change that's made to the policy has to come to the commission. And a few months back, we voted to take Belle Isle off of that list because they were in a temporary location. They no longer had a place to rent out. In a few months now, no, not too long, when we get back into Belle Isle, we would have to go back and vote to put that back on. So the alternative to that is to take that list out of the policy and put it in the procedures. The policies are our overarching statement of what we want to accomplish. The procedures are the ways that the library staff goes about accomplishing the policy. And so the procedures are established and amended, updated, whatever, internally by the administration. So the staff doesn't have to worry about that. In a way, that's kind of the nitpicky stuff that we're not really trying to do. We don't want to micromanage anybody, so we don't have time for that. And we've got an excellent staff to do all those things, that kind of thing. So the other problem with taking, or the problem that we're taking out, is it no longer has public access. However, anyone who wants to know information about a room at the library can call the library and get the information very quickly. And although I'm pretty sure we don't have any metrics that show exactly, I suspect there have been very few people over the years who have gone through the process of digging down to the policies to look and find that information. So I don't think it's necessarily going to be depriving the public of any information that they need. Both Chris's department and the Public Services Committee felt like this was a decision that the commission probably ought to make, whether to leave the list as part of the policy or to remove it and make it part of the procedures.
So what we'd like to know right now is, does anyone have any conversation right now, any discussion about pulling the fees out of policy themselves and putting it in procedure? Mac? And if you wouldn't mind coming to the microphone so everybody will hear. Mac, hold it, Mac. Sorry. Please come to the microphone. We want to make sure everybody watching via Zoom that can hear you. I know it's going to be profound.
But it's a little off topic.
Uh-oh. You got to stick to topic. We're an open meeting act. We don't make me violate it.
Okay, well,
Use the microphone, please.
can I make a comment then?
Well, I don't know. I'm kind of worried about your comment. So you got to, I mean, we have stick to open meetings, so it has to pertain to the agenda item.
It is. But not with fee. Well, it is to do with fee, but it's a comment.
Okay, your comment or question have to pertain to this agenda item. Review and possible revisions to AS 510 public space reservations.
Yeah.
Okay,
So I just want to make a comment.
can you step up close to the mic? I'm not trying to be a hard nose. I just want our viewers from home to hear you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I just want to make a comment that this building is owned by the Oklahoma County taxpayer. Would you agree? Yes. And so that's a public space.
It's not owned by the county? It's Oklahoma City.
Well, city. So if Oklahoma City Council wanted to use the space, then would we charge them or would we not charge them? That's my question. And I think that should be,
Okay,
okay, I would like.
okay. Thank you, Mac.
In your packet, there are 4 documents listed, and it's not quite as overwhelming as it looks. 2 of them have to do with leaving the list as it is, and the other 2 have to do with taking the list out. To me, the easier one to look at and understand is the one that says red line, because it specifically shows what items are still in there and what items have been taken out. I like to see that. Then the other one, the one that says final, is the final. It's a nice, clean, pretty version that will be what we're going to actually be voting on. But if you haven't read the other part, it makes it kind of hard to understand. But if you read through the policy, it says that there are lists of the groups that can use the building without paying a fee. And I just kind of thought maybe somebody might ask that, so if I can find it here. Yes, this is part of the procedure. And it is a list of the cities, each one of the cities that has a library in it. And then organizations, American Library Association, Friends of the Library, the Endowment Trust, Metropolitan Library Commission, Library System Staff Association, Oklahoma County Government Agencies, Oklahoma Department of Libraries, and Oklahoma Library Association. And then it also includes groups that work with general education development, people getting their GEDs in place of a high school diploma, and with ESL and with other literacy groups. There are 3 of them specifically that are mentioned on there. But yes, the cities of each city that has a library can use the library without a fee. So these are, and this is referenced, this document is referenced in the policy. But as far as the document itself, it's in procedure. So if there's some reason that it needs to be changed, it can be changed internally. But right now, yes, the city itself, whichever, Dell City or Oklahoma City or whoever, can use their library space without any cost.
And in some of our leases, it specifically states, Dell City is one, that if the city has a official purpose for the space, it's a city business, then they are certainly welcome to use the space at no cost.
And
So-
that's specifying it in the contract, but it is covered in the policy.
Yes.
So questions about, let's talk about moving it from policy to procedure. Any questions about that? Beth has a question. Come on up, Miss Beth.
If I'm understanding correctly, you're talking about whether to take the locations off. And where would the public be able to find that list of locations without a lot of trouble? And I would wish that they would say that.
But we could have,
When-
can't procedures be located with policy online? But they could be.
I don't want to speak for anybody, but I would imagine if it's a document that would, it needed to be accessed by the public, then they would probably create a place for that. We just don't make all of our procedures available to the public, because that's the behind the scenes stuff. But if I'm speaking wrong, help me out. Okay, yeah, so I would imagine, I'll let Chris take over.
Yeah, Chris, please come forward. Thank you. Guys are making me be tough today. Thank you.
I would add that if a person wants to reserve a room and they go to our website to do so, the fees are there. And so they know what they're paying in advance of making the reservation.
And they have a listing of all of the meeting rooms that are available that they can choose from in order to reserve the room. So when you go to automatically reserve your room, there's a listing there of all rooms and presently all fees connected to those rooms, and you pick which room you want. So it is there. And then the vast bulk of the room reservations, they are done by the customer themselves. CIS does do some staff do some, but many of the room reservations are done by the customer, and they're all done on that online portal. And so when they go in, there's a list of rooms, they pick their room, they pick the date and time that they want to use it, and they'll take care of any fees at that time. But all of that information is there and always available. Anytime you can reach our website and get to that meeting room reservation, you have a complete list of all the information.
In other words, like, to me, we had to do a commission vote to fill out all for the time period. For me, that was kind of a, and this, I mean, because we knew we were going to do it back. I mean, all you have to do is go in online and just remove it.
That's right.
And that, to me, would be an intelligent way to do it. And I just felt like we did it in a very awkward way, and we had to have a commission vote to take it off.
Because it was part of policy.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Beth. Other questions? Yeah, Craig, come on up. Judy's gonna reread the motion. But I wanted to make sure, I wanted to make sure we had questions answered before we got to that part.
My question is, are we trying to obfuscate something in this process? Are we trying to keep something from the public, or are we trying to just establish a procedure? That's my question.
Yeah. Establish a procedure, right, Judy?
Right.
And make it easier to make changes. So we don't need to bring it to the full commission. Yeah, great question, Craig. Thank you. Other questions?
I tell you what, if
Arlita?
anybody has something to give it, they're welcome to.
Yeah. Okay, Arlita's, then Nancy on deck.
The list in the policy statement, category 4, says events by nonprofits, community organizations, government agencies are businesses, and that comes under first come, first served with rental fees. So how would a city that owns a building differentiate from being a government agency? This says with rental fees. Category 4. First come, first served with rental fees. Includes government agencies.
Okay, well, government agencies to me are like Department of Human Services. But private people are already listed as.
But the city that owns the library. So that's this, which I don't see on this.
Okay, Chris, could you talk in the microphone, please? Sorry. Let's let everybody hear the.
Trying to get there.
That's
So
okay.
if you, to answer the question, if you look at the category numbers, that could also be considered priorities. And so the first priority is for the library and its use. The second priority would be to answer the question there of the cities or other nonprofits. The third category speaks to our study rooms, and then the fourth category is the one that she read, is basically the money. And so hopefully that helps. So the city is considered that second group, and so they would get a priority that would mean that they would not be paying for the room. And then if I could speak briefly to something that Beth mentioned, the reason we took Belle Isle off the list is because at its current rate, we knew that the rate would also change when we went back because the room size was going to change. So it's going to have to come to the commission anyway, and the rate was wrong. And so that's the reason we were doing that every time the library changed or the meeting room changed. it was going to have to come back to commission anyway to be adjusted. And so that's one of the reasons why that was continuing to come back, rather than just do an internal change on the website. Does that help?
Thank you, Chris. Nancy, come on up.
There, and I'm just not reading carefully. It, to what extent is a meeting or an event in the library open to anyone who might want to attend? In other words, or maybe the opposite, being to what extent can someone that's reserved the room restrict access to it?
Very good. Events must be free and open to the public. Privacy is not guaranteed. But we're not gonna have somebody standing at the door saying, show me your dog club membership.
Thank you, Nancy.
But if I, as someone who reserved the room, not the library to me, I reserved the room, I'm gonna have a discussion of something, a book discussion about something, and I want the people to come to there who I know are enjoying the books, not necessarily people who are gonna be opposed to books, because it's already said that my reservation is a public document. Okay. I'm just-
Craig, could you come up, please? Sorry, I know. Right. No,
Are we arguing the content of AS 500 meeting rooms and the red line, or is the committee proposing it as it is and we take it as it is?
right. So Judy, why don't you read the motion as amended? It's different from what's in your packet, and this includes pulling the piece about the fees out of policy and into a procedure, so we don't need to bring it back.
We're not doing the old discussion there.
But I think just to
But yeah,
clarify
just to
for everybody,
clarify.
so that everybody knows what we're talking about.
The motion is to approve the recommendations from the Public Services Committee to amend AS 510 Public Space Reservations and Use Policy to change room fee structure to reflect $10 an hour per room, and to make the necessary proposed revisions, including moving the fee structure out of policy and into procedure. But the issue about the reservation being a public document is a change. So it's a revision.
True,
Well, it said,
correct,
so it's appropriate to ask.
correct. Yeah, thank you, Nancy. Yeah. Okay, so any other questions about this piece? Okay, keep going, Judy.
Okay, we've actually already pretty well covered. The other changes are to, on page 1 of the document, to category 4. And like Chris pointed out, category 4 is everybody else that's not in categories 1, 2, and 3. And we have spelled out a little more clearly who that is. And then also, this will be the place where it tells the public that the fee is $10 per hour per room. Previously, we didn't have that listed because it was on the list because it was different for every library. That's one of the advantages to going to the system, is that this will be consistent across all the libraries. And I think that's important, because if you look at the list there, it varies wildly from library to library.
Any questions about any of the revisions in the 510 policy? We talked about the fees. Any questions about any of the other revisions? Okay. Judy, you want to read your motion one more time? Oh, okay, Jennifer. Thank you for coming up.
I do have a question on category 4. If I personally pay and rent that room, anybody can come in. Events must be free and open to the public. Privacy is not guaranteed. I guess I'm taking it back in off Mrs. Anthony. But if I have a group of friends and this is where we're going to discuss this random book, anybody can just walk in, even if I wrote a check for that room. But it says first come, first served with rental fees.
Right.
But that is no fees. So that is the only access a private individual has is for that. So I couldn't like rent this to show a movie at a birthday party.
Isn't that a category 3?
But that says no, first come, first served, no fees. So I could just reserve this.
By private individuals or private groups?
That's the use of study rooms.
This is a study room.
This is not a study room.
Okay, then I'm under the private individual is under category 4.
Right. And if you rent the room and say you've got you and 9 of your best friends that are having a soiree together, if someone from the public walks in, you simply walk out and let some staff member know, and we will make sure that that person is not there anymore. We can't guarantee that people can't walk in, but we can guarantee that if there's issues or problems with someone coming in, you can reach out to a staff person and we will respond to that situation.
They can walk in, they just can't remain.
Okay, then I
Right.
guess my issue then is with the phrase events must be free and open to the public. Because if I do rent this space, it is not, I'm not charging my friends to walk in, but it is not open to the public if I can go get someone to escort anybody out.
So if we could do this, let's send it back to committee. I think that would be a good idea.
Okay.
And have more conversation in your committee, Julie. I know your poor Judy's committee is, when they meet, right? You always have a good topic. So Chris, did you want to?
I was going to add that our intent was to remove individual private events. So that was intentional to include that language. For a private event, no, the way that it's presented, that's correct. And that is going back to the way the libraries used to operate. And so we changed that a few years ago, and we're asking to move back so that we can allow our nonprofits, our other partners to use the room at a reasonable rate. When we included the private parties, that's when the rates skyrocketed to try to mitigate the amount of time that people were in the rooms. Because if we open it to private parties at $10 an hour, we'll never get the rooms. I can promise you that. And so we're trying to find the balance there.
Okay. Nancy, come on up.
I'll also add that in our comparison to libraries across the country, only 2 libraries that we looked at offer events that are to private individuals. Every other library does not do that.
Term nonprofit covers a multitude of sins. And so, having said that, then you could, I could rent it as a not-for-profit and have a full discussion between the same kind of issues. I'm just in the name of a not-for-profit. So, I don't.
No, for one thing, we're really not competing with main event for birthday parties and bar mitzvahs and whatever, wedding receptions and that sort of thing. The idea is that we are serving the community. And so what we're listing on here are the types of organizations that serve the community with a personal, private event.
Well, if we choose to go back to allowing the private individuals to use the room, I would actually recommend that we not change the room rates. It'll backfire on us.
Judy, your call. if you want to move ahead with a vote or take it back to your committee.
Quite frankly, I don't know what we do other than what we've done, which says specifically that private parties are not eligible in addressing this particular question. Maybe it's another thing to involve that.
Okay, Maria, call the roll. Do you want to read the
Yeah, I'll
motion one
read
more
it.
time? Just to make sure.
To approve the recommendations from the Public Services Committee to amend the AS 510 Public Space Reservations and Use Policy to change the room fee structure to reflect $10 an hour per room and to make the necessary proposed revisions, including moving the fee structure out of policy and into procedures.
Okay, thank you. All right, Maria?
Anthony. Edmondson. Harris. Jackson. Johnson. McCaleb. McDaniel.
No.
McQuiller.
No.
Morgan.
Yes.
Patel.
No.
Pennington. Rubio. Smith. Tolan. Woodruff. Kane.
Yes. What was the vote?
4 noes. 12 yes.
Okay, motion passes 12-4. Thank you. That was a great conversation. And thanks to Public Services for all their work, Judy. 4.2, discussion, consideration, possible action, executive committee minutes. Those are in your packet. Any questions? Okay, they stand approved. 5.1, discussion, consideration, possible action, review, and possible revisions to VH 110 chronology of the Metropolitan Library System. Entertain a motion. Motion by Beth. Is there a second? Second by Jennifer. Okay, Larry.
Basically, this is a simple change. The policy is almost, it actually is completely chronology. There is no other language to it. It's just simply a listing of events. And we don't really feel that necessarily needs to be in policy. So when we came to the executive committee to discuss what to do about this, it was suggested that we just simply change the policy to state that the chronology of the library system would be kept by a specific unit or person. So what we've done in terms of bringing this forward is we've put on the chronology of the Metropolitan Library System will be maintained by the Special Collections Department. And that way, every time an event happens, we don't have to come and bring back the chronology to you to approve amending it. So all we're doing is simply removing the chronology, and the chronology will be available at another spot on our website so that the public will have access to it. It will be online for people to have access to. We're just simply removing the actual events from the policy.
So just another example of administration cleaning up our policies.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Questions for Larry? Okay, Maria?
Anthony. Edmondson. Harris. Jackson. Johnson. McCaleb. McDaniel. McQuiller. Morgan. Patel. Pennington. Rubio. Smith. Tolan. Woodruff. Kane.
Yes. 5.2, discussion, consideration, possible action, proclamation of recognition to the amazing Friends of the Metropolitan Library System. Entertain a motion. Beth? I was going to say Beth better be making that motion. Beth seconded, Beth made the motion and Judy seconded. Thank you. Okay, and let me just read the motion. It's a really great motion. A proclamation, whereas the American library community celebrates National Friends of Libraries Week from October 17th to the 23rd, 2021. And whereas the Friends of the Metropolitan Library System have supported our libraries since 1978 by raising funds and circulating books in our communities. And whereas over 40 book sale events, in addition to sales of online books and membership support, have provided $4.9 million of grants to our library system. That gave me chills. And whereas dedicated volunteers have maintained and grown operations even in the most difficult of times, their passion has helped to share the culture of service and literacy that together we hold most high. Therefore, on this 21st day of October, 2021, at the meeting of the Metropolitan Library Commission of Oklahoma County, we hereby proclaim and recognize the volunteers, members, donors, and board leadership for the Friends of the Metropolitan Library System. We deeply value the financial and social contributions you provide to improve our libraries and our communities. Thank you for helping us meet our mission. Congratulations on your continued success. Beth, is there anything you'd like to come up and say? I know your mom was a longtime volunteer with the Friends, and then you took over. So you want to, I bet you want to come up and say something, I'm sure. 4.9 million, that just kind of boggles your mind, doesn't it?
Especially when you consider the very first book sale made about $5,000.
Did it really?
And it was held at Belle Isle and
wow.
I believe also Southern Oaks, was it not at that time? Held both places. You were at Belle Isle, but we made $5,000.
Wow.
Bobby Brown was one of our founding members that helped start the book sale. And over the years, I remember the year that we made $25,000. We thought, well, we're never going to, several people said, well, we'll never hit that again. The next year we made $50,000. It's been a joy for the Friends, and I'm speaking out of pocket, but I'm been a joy for the Friends to help support our metropolitan library system.
And now our average is over 200,000 each year, right?
The last book sale we had, I believe we made $258,938.17.
Of course she remembers that. Beth's our numbers person. Yeah, thank you, Beth. Larry, anything you'd like to say about this before we vote?
No, just we couldn't do what we do without the Friends of the Library, the foundation, all the people who contribute to making the library system better and stronger for the community. And we thank all those that are responsible for it.
And the service center is open again, right? So I can start bringing my books again.
Mhm.
Okay, awesome. That's great. Thank you so much. Okay,
In
Maria.
fact, we've already had one by the box sale to try to get
I
rid
saw
of
that.
so much because everyone's been hoarding since COVID started.
Yes, we have.
And they discovered that we were accepting. And so everyone's attic is now in the process of being moved to our storage.
Yes, yeah. Thank you, Larry. Okay, Beth.
We're also doing sales throughout the year on Amazon.
Oh,
So you can go in and support the Friends of the Library that way by buying books.
nice. Thank you. Okay, Maria. And would you please convey our thanks to the Friends Board and volunteers, please? Awesome. Okay.
Anthony. Yes. Edmondson. Yes. Harris. Yes. Holt. Oh, sorry. Jackson. Yes. Johnson. Yes. McCaleb. Yes. McDaniel.
Yes.
McQuiller. Yes. Morgan.
Yes.
Patel.
Yes.
Pennington. Yes. Rubio. Yes. Smith. Yes. Tolan. Aye. Woodruff. Kane.
Yes. Will we be getting a copy of that to the
Yes.
Friends Board? Okay. Thank you, Maria. Okay, 6.1 Library Usage Report.
I present to you this month's usage report. You will note most of our indicators are going up. We're getting closer to being more towards normal. We're not there yet, but we are getting closer. You will see in general the increases in most of the activity, both on the month of September and the fiscal year to date. You'll see substantial increases. There are couple of things I wanted to highlight. The first is the account holders. You'll notice the 19% drop. That was because of the data cleanup we did and cleaning up our patron records. That hopefully is the vast majority of that. If you look at the fiscal year to date, the new account holders are up 50% for that time period. This corresponds to the date that we initiated the fine free. So it is conceivable that some of our folks who either let their cards lapse or have not gotten cards have heard about the news and maybe working to take advantage of that. We will do some research and see if that's indeed the case, but that is one possibility. We've also had in the month over month, if you look at August for new account holders, we had a substantial increase, and that was predominantly, we believe, from the one card school memberships that we set up each year, and that number fluctuates based on the enrollment of the public school system. So with school starting back and the one card changes, we believe that explains a majority of that impact. And then also pointing out from the usage summary from Southern Oaks, you will see things picking up in August and September with students coming back, with schools coming back in. We have more people coming into the facilities, more computer usage, more circulation. So Southern Oaks is a small microcosm of the kind of return to normal that our system has seen. Any questions on the usage data? Yes, sir.
Yes, come on up. You were just testing me, weren't you?
On the, is the data suggesting on the no fee for late fees anymore? Are we seeing an increase in people holding on to their books longer?
Actually, that is in my executive director's report. I've got a couple of pages, but I can kind of jump to that if you want. In the executive director's report on what, 1, 2, 3, 4, I guess it's page 5. There is a fine-free project update. The commission asked that we come and bring information periodically about how that was doing. And so we have started doing some, we started off identifying where we were with some targets in terms of overdues and other things. The short synopsis of what we're finding is that we have more people who are accumulating more overdues, which is somewhat to be expected. But we're also seeing, and you can see this on page 6, with the last data table at the bottom of the page. When we started this project, when we had overdue items that we were billing for, which are overdue items 60 days or more overdue, in April of this year, which is before the fine-free switch, we were averaging about 126 days before that item returned. So a little over 4 months. And as we got closer to fine-free, it actually went up. It went to 159. And each month since the fine-free has been implemented, the number of days has gone down. So it started at 126, it peaked at 159 in June, and it is presently in this month 94. So it's come down from 126 to 94. So there's been approximately a 25% decline. 30%, somewhere in that region. So we're seeing more short-term overdues and more patrons with overdues, but the long period of time is actually getting books back about a month earlier than we were. So it's kind of a little mix. It's kind of a mix.
Great question. Thank you.
And that's kind of the short version of it. Mhm. Were there any other questions with the data? Yes, ma'am.
Jennifer, look at her. Come on up. That is awesome.
I noticed, okay, the note that says how many cleared cards have been used since July 1st, a little over 17,000. Those are ones that were not being used and we cleared them and now they are back to be
Yes.
used.
Yes.
Was that what I asked about last time?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
We listened. We listened. So far, of the approximately 50 to 60,000 cards that we cleaned up, 17,000 of them have been used. So within the first 90 days, almost a third of those cards have been used.
This is great information.
I owe the information in great deal to Risa Johnson-Jones and Ann Fisher, who have been digging around in our beta and digging around in our catalog to collect this kind of information, because there's not a neat little print this button for most of this information. So they've had to do a lot of digging, a lot of searching through our records to come up with the information. So we're happy to do that, but they get the credit for doing it. Yes, ma'am.
So of all the books that are checked out, what percentage are returned on time or early?
Actually,
Is that in there?
we have that. In terms of on time or early, that one I don't have. I'm sorry, I did. But I can tell you how many are overdue, and that would give us the difference. Because if we know how many are overdue, then we know everything else that was returned was either on time or early.
It done.
So our general overdue rate in terms of the total number of items we have based on the number of accounts, when we started was about 12%. So approximately 88 or less of that is either material that was returned on time or early.
But if a book is overdue this month and I have it sent back, it's over next month, you're counting the cost. But you don't have to.
Nice. If you don't know, Nancy's a mathematician. I mean, she statistics was your major, right? Yes. Yeah. I'm not challenging that. Go ahead, Larry. Yeah.
Yeah. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. Maybe Ann could take a look.
I mean, we could go back down and I think,
Yeah.
right,
It's a positive thing, right?
sure.
A positive message about how many are getting their books on time and,
Yeah.
right? Can we have someone take a look at that?
We can dig.
Okay.
I can't promise you, but we can dig. I mean, there's limits to what we're going to be able to do with the data based on what the system actually keeps track of, but we can look.
See if it's counting it twice.
We can look.
Okay. Okay, that's great. Thank you, Nancy.
But just you know, when we started before fine free, we were at approximately 12% was the general overdue rate. With the change, we are currently at 13%. So it's gone up 1% so far in the first 90 days.
Okay, thank you. You want to highlight anything else in your report? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes,
Yeah,
please.
go ahead, Risa.
She is our data seeker.
So what we are able to get from the data is a snapshot. So being able to, as opposed to, so it's a snapshot. So each of these dates is data from a snapshot on that date. So we really are not able, the way the data tables are set up, that there's not a good way to track those items over time. So on September 1st, of all items that were checked out to people, 12% of them were overdue. And on October 1st, of all those items, 13% were overdue. So that this is literally a snapshot. The ability to track items, they very well could be the same, but
Yes.
so. Exactly. Right. Yes.
It could be.
And that's what we can see. We also have items overdue, so that's those items that we track. So but seeing those items go overdue and the items that are lost, number of items. So you'll see that there's some data missing there because when you all approved the Fine Free project in April, that was the first day I ran the numbers because I was like, oh, you said you wanted data. Let me start grabbing that. But I didn't look for how many items are currently checked out on that date. I didn't think to do that until September when I was like, oh, well, that could be useful to look at as we're doing this. So we're kind of learning it along the way. Ann and I are not mathematicians. We apologize for that. Data is just a fun hobby on the side. So this is our amateur way of trying to get you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Risa.
And it's really good to know as we go through this trial year, right? We're seeing, does this make an impact and allow more accessibility to our libraries? That was the whole intent, right? Was to improve accessibility.
Correct.
And so I love that we're doing these snapshots along the way, kind of like little checkpoints, so that keeps the commission informed. So thank you.
Two of the other data points that I'll point out is the number of items that were on hold on July 1st was 18,000. And when this report was run, this was reporting just a little under 22,000. So there was a jump in the number of holds, but we have to place that into context because this, before COVID hit, our holds were running in the 27,000 range. So it's an increase, but it's an increase back towards normal. So it's not like we're seeing a huge rush of extra things that are happening. It is working its way back to pre-COVID levels. We still have a ways to go before we get there. So I don't know that we have, lots of people taking advantage of putting things on hold. The other one I want to point out is the number of items that are 60 days or more overdue, i.e. billable. That's when we send them the replacement notice or the bill. When we started on July 1st, there were just a shade over 121,000. And when this report was run on the 1st of October, it was 117,000. So we've actually come down 4,000 over that time period in terms of number of billable items. So we're not seeing a huge increase in long lost, late returned items.
Come on up, Judy.
Everybody's been nice, they let the microphone down for me. Larry, you have an item on there about the libraries issuing state IDs. Where do you stand on that?
My stand on that is heck no.
Okay, but overall, where do you stand?
The reason it was brought up, we had a local legislator who brought it to the state library, who thought that it would be a matter of convenience to the public. And being that we already issued IDs, they thought it would be something that libraries would be able to do. It implies a whole lot of risk and liability. That would require major administrative and legal changes to statute, because presently libraries are not authorized to issue state IDs. Many libraries do not have the equipment or the staff or the time to be able to issue it. And because of the liability that would be associated with issuing official state documents and the use, many libraries are not in favor of it. And so we have come together as groups and reported back to the state library that this is not something that we feel is a good move. The next logical step of it would have been, if we're going to be issuing ID cards, then the thought was also that that would lay the foundation for having one library card for the entire state. We run into privacy issues, and we run into data collection and management issues. And there would have to be outside audit by other agencies of our records. And how do we keep that information confidential? While it might have been an idea with good intent, it was not something that is really feasible for libraries to do for a long list of reasons. So at this point, we have made that recommendation back to the state library, and the state library is working with the legislator to help them understand what the challenges would be for this, and to work with them to see what other alternatives might be available. The question is, what can we do to help? At this point, I don't know that there is anything. The vast majority of library directors have reported to the state that this is not something that they feel is a good idea. And the state is reaching out to the legislature. And at this point, we don't think it's really going to go anywhere. So I don't know that any action would be needed at this point. I just had it. Risa? I'm sorry? There we go. She is representative here in OKC. Thank you, Chris.
Considering that the state legislature will not get a driver's license, someone who is
That was part of our thinking. I know myself, when I moved here, I had to take 3 photo IDs to get my license and a voter's ID. Because I had an out-of-state license, so I had to bring 3 photo IDs with me. So I'm not sure how much cooperation the legislature would have been willing to give with it anyway. So at this moment, I think the issue is kind of mute, and we're just we want to reach out to the legislator and thank them for the interest. We don't want to just tell them no, and we don't want anything to do with them. We're reaching out to them in a constructive way and pointing out some of the challenges that would come with it, so that they're aware of why we have the position we have. We've already talked about Southern Oaks being reopened. The other thing I want to highlight really quickly is our kiosk out in Mitch Park is rolling along. So far, we've had 233 circulations out of it between October 1st and October 20th. Last time I heard, we had over 70 holds that were on in the machine. It holds 340 items or thereabouts, and approximately 70 of them were hold items that people have. It's a quickly growing thing. As people are walking around Mitch Park, they're seeing it, they're dropping by to see what it is. We think it's going to be very interesting. And just to let you know, it apparently is so successful with the Edmonds city government people that they've already placed a request for a second one. They do not have a location yet, but they like the interest that it drew. When it was being built, they put up photos of guess what this is and said, if you're interested and want to guess, call City Hall. Well, apparently they got hundreds of calls of people wanting to know what it was. So we actually got a call at one point saying, will you please announce what it is so that people will stop calling? Will you put up a sign? Will you do something? So we made the announcement. They made the announcement. We have had people coming up to it while it was being constructed. If you go and sit there within a matter of minutes, someone is coming up to use it, people walking the park, a lot of people coming over from the YMCA, people who are on the ballparks there. They're just coming up and grabbing it. And when our staff is there taking care of the machine and speaking with the people who are using it, they're talking about the convenience of it, not having to run downtown and to be able to get it when it's convenient for their schedule. So everything we're hearing from it, from this customer service side, is very positive. Being it's our first one and being that we're learning how to do it, there have been a couple of behind the scenes challenges, but our staff has really made it sing and work. And a lot of people should take credit for it. Our outreach staff, our IT staff, marketing staff for getting the word out. We have folks in public services who are learning to work with the machine or will be learning to work with the machine. So, it's a process. It's our first one. We're learning how to do it. And so hopefully as this runs on and we kind of learn the tricks of the trade with it, we'll be able to implement others even more effectively.
If they get a second kiosk, is that RGA too?
In their estimation, probably not. In their estimation, probably not. The last thing I want to bring up real quick is there is additional ARPA money, which is the American Recovery Plan Act, which is currently providing resource support for a variety of programs connected to keeping the community connected. Things like online training, online education, online medical, things that help people in terms of responding to COVID or other challenges. Right now, the state's allocation, there was approximately a $10 billion allocation for the country. That's broken down by population. Oklahoma's amount of that money, depending on who you talk to, is between $150 and $170 million. And it provides both technology, infrastructure, operation, services. It is a very broad category of things that could be applied for. So we are taking a look at that funding that is available. We would have to work with the state to make the application because the state is the body that is overseeing. We also had the option of working with a tribal government, but we have to work through one of those two bodies in order to make an application for funding. And we feel that the worst thing they can do is tell us no. So we're going to make an effort at some of that, and we're thinking capital improvements that would enable technology.
Thank you. Questions for Larry? Okay, y'all have had great input and questions today. Thank you so much. Our next piece is just any comments from commission members? Anyone want to bring anything else? Judy, come on up. And Beth, you're next.
Just briefly, there was an article in the paper recently about former Commissioner Cindy Friedman being inducted to the Journal of Records Circle of Excellence.
Yeah.
And I don't think any of us are surprised.
Yeah. Do they know she's coming back to the committee? Oh, okay. Okay.
I just wanted to say one more thing about the Friends of the Library. Some of the things that the Friends of the Library has given some grants to our metropolitan library system over the years. We've given grants for furnishing, for artwork, for computers, for carpeting, for service vehicles for the maintenance department, and lots of programming. And when our budget, the library's budget was really tough, we gave grants for many years for books. So
Thank you, Beth. Anyone else? Okay, any suggestions for future agendas? Okay, our next meeting is November 18th. Bethany is hosting us here. So mark that on your calendar. And then I would just encourage you to also write December's meeting date. It is getting into the crazy season. So, and you know, we need 14 live bodies here to have a quorum. So thank you for putting those on your calendar, and just take care and stay well. We're adjourned.